We had a thought a few years ago around team teaching and how we can work within the senior secondary maths curriculum to try and support student engagement and I guess improve outcomes and achievement. Really started off with looking at the student data and saying what is it that we're missing in terms of the student engagement, our mathematics subjects and the way we were dealing with the mathematics at the senior levels.
Essentially we decided to change the culture of the senior school maths classes by combining two classes, two teachers. That way we could bounce off each other, develop new pedagogies, develop new relationships with students and generally increase engagement and attendance at our classes.
So we basically set up a structure so that both of us could team teach with two senior secondary, basically year 12 maths studies classes, and we combined them into the same room and both of us were in there at the same time working with the students. So the first year that we ran it we had approximately 50 students together and both of us working with the group as a whole. We researched a lot about the structures of team teaching and basically came down to our two preferred models of operation.
One model where sort of one teacher takes responsibility for most of the class and one model where you split the class and do either different things or the same things with a different focus.
So we worked with the students across the year and we collected a lot of survey data, anecdotal feedback, comments, focus groups, and we made a number of changes across the year in line with the information that we were collecting. What we found in the early stages was that we had some physical structures in the room that weren't really working with the way that we wanted to operate with the students, and so we actually ended up changing some of the locations for our classes, and that seemed to work best and we settled down into a quite comfortable process of what we're doing with the students. Across the year we then collected information and data and we found that overall the achievement remained steady. We didn't see any dramatic or significant increase or decrease in student outcomes, but what we did notice was the engagement levels increased dramatically, and we looked at in particular the student attendance data, and what we found was that in the team talk classes the student unexplained absences basically halved when compared to the single teacher talk classes.
We've also noticed that engagement improved. We ended up having a real collaborative classroom with more students to work together. They formed small groups spontaneously. They were more likely to have friends in the classroom and they worked together and with both of us really well. We continued the project for about 3 years. It's still ongoing today and the team teaching has spread through quite a number of different classes across the school as well.
And I guess we look at not just the benefits of the students but also as staff. When it comes down to it, we're working on the same subject outline, so we're basically halving the workload in terms of the stuff we need to prepare and develop, how we work with the students and the curriculum materials that we work and develop together. So when it comes to test writing, you know, it's a much easier ride throughout the year and we can critically reflect and analyse on what we've actually created for the students with each other and not have to worry about outsourcing to somewhere else and trying to find and buy in some expertise on that.
Fantastic.
The poster here is the brief overview of the findings of my PhD, which is in geography education. I've investigated how organising students into groups where they have different opinions influences the way in which they think geographically. And the general findings of the research is that when students do have different opinions, they engage with each other through questioning, and those questions then encourage the students to draw upon evidence to support their ideas. So as the poster shows, one of the findings was that when they're asked questions, the photographs that were used as stimulus earlier before the group conversations were used more often by students when they had the disagreements, and also the groups that had the differences of opinion and engaged with them through questioning tended to synthesise their ideas and see how they work together rather than simply keeping those ideas disconnected. So the general findings were that for teachers, a good pedagogy for group learning is to organise students with different opinions, and that helps to get them thinking at that higher order level. Thank you.
My action research has been on measuring the zone of proximal development in senior years assessments. With this, we looked at the theory as to whether or not giving students a grade for their draft impacted on their result for the final assessment and what the growth was between the first draft and the final assessment grade. The research I undertook involved 2 cohorts across 2 years of roughly similar size, and what happened in the first cohort, they received draft feedback but without a grade for their draft, and the second cohort received draft feedback with a grade for their draft. What the end up result was that they didn't actually show any growth between, any difference between the grades for their draft and for the final assessment. Both cohorts achieved roughly the same growth. However, what we did show was that it's not so much the type of feedback that's given, that as long as students acted on the feedback, but also an interesting thing, the best predictor for a student's overall grade was their performance in their very first assessment task. So essentially with the senior years, particularly years 11 and 12, as long as they act on the feedback and as long as that feedback is meaningful, then the overall result is quite good.